Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here, and you're seeing the new setup. Mark, he's listening because he edits all these, has been begging me to get off the road and actually have a proper studio. So we did it. We're excited. Doesn't mean I still won't be on the road. Sorry, Mark, you're going to have to deal with that. But my man Brock is in the house. How are you doing, sir?
Never better. Happy to be here and chatting with you.
Awesome. Well, I have a rule, Brock. There's two people I'll always hire. It's military people or people who have been through recovery. That's my rule. Because, the military for me, they take care of their own space, I think is the word I want to use. So I want to hear your story about, kind of where you are, and you can start where you want to, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am former military, as you mentioned, and might actually kind of meet one of the other criteria you just mentioned in a way as well. In preparation for this interview, was reading up on you and listening to some of your backstory, and a lot of very similar threads to pull on there. Raised very middle class, very non-extravagant, just regular upbringing. Thought that I was going to go off and do big things. And I think that I'm headed there now, but it took a little while. Left and gave college a try after high school. Really wasn't my thing. Kind of fell in with the wrong crowd and got pulled into a lot of different ways of life that I'm not super proud of. Hanging out with some unsavory people and really had my life going in kind of a bad direction. I ended up joining the Navy, which was actually something that I had aspired to do earlier in life, and I'm super thankful for it. It got my life turned around in a much different direction. Spent 4 years in the Navy, deployed once as an Aviation Electronics Technician, working on infrared and targeting for F-18s, and found out that that's not really what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And so thought I wanted to pursue a career in finance, got out and went and got my degree, found data and kind of like entrepreneurship in the process, and have been slowly but surely chasing that down since. So that kind of leads me here today. I'm a data analyst full-time. I am in grad school full-time also for data science, and also run a podcast focused on military, current and former service members, and interviewing the most interesting ones in the world that I can find.
I love it. And what do you think drew you to those unsavory characters?
I was really looking for a place to belong, I think. I grew up in a Christian home, went to church every Sunday. We had Bible study every weekend. We had youth group. We were very, very involved with the church, and went to Christian school my entire life. And it wasn't that didn't jive with me, but I was very eager to explore what else was out there. And sheltered is not really the word that I would use, but as soon as I graduated, I started meeting new people and was very quickly made aware of like what the world has to offer in kind of some good and bad ways. But in those types of communities, you're quickly kind of accepted if you are doing the thing that everybody else is doing. And so finding that kind of acceptance and sort of counterculture belief system and activity choice really will send you as far down as that on that rabbit hole as you want to go, which I'm sure, like I said, hearing some of your story, I was picking up a lot of the same parallels.
And what do you think got you out of there?
To this day, I'm not really quite sure. I don't know that there's one specific thing that did it. Like I said, I was eager or anticipating to join the military prior to, like, even while I was in high school. I'd applied to do ROTC and was really looking forward to that. My dad was in the Navy, and several family members are all former service. It's something that's pretty instilled in our family. So it was something that I thought that I would do eventually. But one day there was just kind of a very brief moment of clarity, and I went down to the recruiter's office and said, "Hey, I'm here to sign up." And I kind of got my act together, got my life going in a better direction, started working on my fitness, cleaned up my life, and I haven't really looked back since. It's all been very, very good since that day.
I think an important point in what you just said is moment of clarity, and then you took the action. When a lot of people don't take the action, and life is in, going that way or going that way. It's that one moment of action that you took in that moment that I would imagine if you didn't really go down to the recruiter's office, your life might not be what it is today.
For sure. That certainly is accurate. And I think that action should be the bias that everybody has. We need to be moving to action all of the time because our natural state is a state of decay. We're constantly atrophying and like being lowered in our physical fitness, our mental fitness, all of these things. And we need to have that bias to action because there's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And I didn't want to be that person when I'm on my deathbed thinking about, well, I could have done this, but I didn't. And it isn't even just about joining the Navy. That's about everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My favorite thing I say is everything you seek is on the opposite side of action. And what I call with my clients, my favorite thing is I call messy action. So the problem is that when we're trying to change our life or we're trying to start something new, we create parameters around what that action needs to be like instead of just taking action and letting it be messy and uncomfortable. And then through that, you become more, right? One of my favorite Alex Hormozy quotes is your work will work on you more than you work on it. It's the truth. Like who we have to become, who you had to become in the Navy and a data analyst and a podcast host, you had to be better. And that made you a better person. I think I've gained more from listening to stories such as yourself and the podcast and everything, like that's my own healing, my own therapy and understanding that I'm not the only one, because I think one of the biggest issues I run into with people that are, struggling or around the wrong crowd is they feel alone. And so one of the reasons I started the podcast was to share stories such as yourself so people can go, oh, I can see myself in him and I know that I'm not alone. And through that, it creates a space where you can change. And that's why I think it's so important that you do your podcast and I do my podcast and everybody who wants to do one does one, because that's kind of the genesis of why I got started in the first place.
Podcasting is a really great medium to do that. It's certainly afforded me, and I'm sure that you would echo the same, the opportunity to meet a lot of people you wouldn't otherwise. And I know that leading up to starting one, I felt connected and validated in a lot of ways just by listening to other people's shows, even if it wasn't even necessarily something that I was particularly interested in or my niche. There is a lot of power in audio, and spending a lot of concentrated hours. I mean, I probably listen to 20 to 25 hours of podcasts a week. And so the people who I listen to, and I try to be selective about that, but they've got a lot of influence. And even though that they don't know you, you're able to kind of build a connection at scale without really needing a lot of extra work. One of the beauties of the digital age of leverage.
100%. So how long have you been, I'm curious, how long have you been on Twitter, like focused on it?
I've been on Twitter for maybe like a good 5 or 6 years. I keep saying that I'm like taking it seriously or doing better. I needed to kind of drop that like mentality internally and quit looking at it as like, oh, this is this business I need to grow. Twitter has been, just in the last few years of that 6 years or so, has been super instrumental to me. I've learned a lot, gained a lot of really good mentors, and the quality of people there has certainly filled a void in my life after exiting the military, connecting with other vets, seeing what other vets are doing. That's part of the kind of inspiration that led to the podcast. But I was really looking for what is it that I want to do with my life, trying to figure out what that means and iterate quickly down that. And so what that has looked like for me is talk to a bunch of people who have kind of a similar background as me and figure out what they're doing. And then I'll try out what resonates and keep moving forward from there. So I've been on it for a couple of years, I guess, to answer your question. I've kind of had varying outlooks about what I consider like taking it seriously or not, though.
And what at the current moment is not, I'm not saying Twitter, I'm just saying life in general. What has you the most fired up about where you're headed and what you're doing?
I'd say two things. I like the podcast that is still remains at actually, no, I'm going to add a third thing. So I'm going to throw a personal one in there. Number one is the podcast. I have a goal to get to 100,000 downloads by the end of this year. It's something that I'm taking very seriously, being aggressive about, and trying to be humble in my approach of like finding an audience that I identify with and then give them the things that they're looking for. The second thing has actually come about as a result of the podcast. So since kind of finding the idea of entrepreneurship or owning a business, I know that you're in the SMB space and similar, but I have really been attracted to being my own boss. I know that I am on a long time scale unemployable, and I'm sorry if my current W-2 boss is listening, but I kind of am, and I think that they're okay with that. I'm working towards that. What that has looked like is starting the podcast and then trying to do a bunch of other things to say, how can I make this a sustainable job? How can I wake up and do this every day for work? And so that's led to trying and subsequently failing at a lot of different things. But something that has come about recently, a friend of mine and actually a prior guest of the show reached out and was like, hey, I would really love to do or be part of a veteran like CEO/founder peer group. And I know you've talked a lot about peer groups. I know you're in a couple and we can get into those if you'd like. And he's like, I would pay for that today. And that was kind of an interesting moment for me because many of the prior things that I've started, there's a whole long laundry list of them, but many of them were, it was me trying to fit myself into like a square or a round hole when I'm actually a triangle. It's like, hey, what do I know how to do? And what can I do rather than what is it that people are actually looking for? And so I like sent this thing out and had 8 people sign up saying they're ready to pay me today to do it. And I was like, okay. So I'm super on fire and excited about that. Being able to not even just Twitter is kind of like a high level function of connecting with other vets, but will be another level of like daily or at least weekly contact with the same people and building an established friend group. So that's 2. And then the third one is I've got my firstborn on the way. Got a baby due in August, and more of a personal one, but those are certainly the 3 things that I'm pretty fired up about right now.
So that group and working for yourself, does that go hand in hand with, wanting the freedom with the baby coming? Meaning most guys that I meet, or most just people in general that are coaching me or I'm coaching them, is purely because they want dictate and control of their schedule. No offense to their W-2. I think W-2s serve a purpose. But a lot of guys, I think the genesis, the motivation for business is to control the freedom to be able to be there at the soccer practices and the be there in your kid's life, which everybody understands. I'm not boohooing W-2 jobs. There's a lot of times in entrepreneurship I would welcome the salary when you have a rough month. But I was just curious if that group and those guys wanting to get in that sparked kind of even more freedom, wanting to seek that.
I think it started out that way because coming from a military background, anybody who's current or former service will understand this, is there's this just kind of like crushing weight of being told what to do. And that sounds probably kind of childish, but it's this weird feeling that just weighs on your shoulders every day, because every single one of your moves is dictated. It's not just where you're going to live. It's what time you're waking up, how long you're working. It's all of these things. And so initially I kind of like fell down this rabbit hole in my last year or so of the Navy, kind of got interested, started reading about all these people that I kind of still look up to in a lot of ways, and really was like, I'm after that. I'm after control of my schedule. What it has kind of evolved into as I went back to school, got a regular job, and am doing that, the realization that I've had is actually, it has less to do with the amount of work that I'm doing, because I'm ready to work myself to the bone. Between what I do, all of the couple things that I do earlier that I mentioned, I'm easily 60 to 80 hours a week. But my W-2 doesn't require that of me. So it's actually not the amount of work or what it is. It just, what I've kind of evolved into is that I want to wake up and be excited about what I'm working on. And I think that the ability to go to soccer practice, those are kind of some newer developments, but primarily I want to work on things that excite me and are kind of, I think, serve a purpose that I am aligned with. Somebody that I wrote this quote down, I have this on my LinkedIn. It's kind of cheesy, but it's from this guy named Cortland Allen, who's and I'm not sure if he's quoting somebody when he said it, but he's the founder of a company called Indie Hackers that got acquired by Stripe. He said, underrated, a goal to meet new people who inspire, learn new skills that empower, travel to places that intrigue, and build a life that grants financial independence while doing the work that I find meaningful. And I think that has about as acutely sums up what I'm after more than anything.
I would say that I've done a lot of podcasts, like a lot. That's the most grown-up answer I've ever heard to the true definition of what it means. That people are, I'll be on vacation and I'm looking at real estate in Costa Rica, and people are like, stop looking at real estate. I'm like, enjoy yourself. I'm like, I am. I don't need a vacation from my life because I designed it exactly the way I want to. I love working. Like, fucking love it. If I'm off for like 3 or 4 days, unless we're like really traveling, my fiance is like, go to work. You're terrible when you haven't like put in a day. Dude, maybe I'm just me. When you have like, that feeling, like, and I have a great team, so I haven't had it lately, but when I was running my own stuff and I had that overwhelming feeling like, oh my God, there's just so much going on. I can't catch up all week. And then like you earmark like a great 3-hour session on a Saturday morning. There's no better feeling.
Oh man,
and
you're like, talking dirty to me right now, Austin.
I know. You got the music on, the headphones, and you got that 10-person list, that 10-person checklist, that 10 checklist, and you knock it out. Yeah. And then you go enjoy the rest of your day. It doesn't feel the same on a Monday, but on a Saturday, that feels amazing.
It is so funny to me in my work chat. Everybody, it's Friday morning and everybody's sending all these Friday memes or like, man, this just been a brutal week. And stuff like that is so encouraging to me. And I don't think that life is really a competition, but if it were, and other people that may be competing against me for the same, I think that we're playing infinite games, or I want to play those types of games. But if there was competition, I'm happy to know that I look forward to the weekend because it's the time when I can get the most work done. Yes. And that's the time to work on the passion projects. It's the working the 5 to 9 outside of the 9 to 5 kind of thing. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Friday is the separator. 3 weeks in a row, we've had the best, like we're calling them separation Fridays. We've had amazing things happen on Friday, big jobs we've got, whatever. Like that's the day that everybody's like chilling, waiting for the weekend. Like true story also. Been to 2 restaurants on Saturday, the last 2 Saturdays. Through those 2 Saturdays, I think I've got 6 to 7 jobs just by meeting people, 3 other referrals. We're talking somewhere in the neighborhood, of 6 figures of jobs just from going out and grabbing lunch and chatting with people about, hey, can I help you? Like, look, it's not, annoying or anything, but I'm just asking, is there anything I can help you with? Can I serve you? I have a servant's heart, and people are checked out. They're, at the bar till 3 a.m. or whatever they're doing. No, I'm out there trying to, I find it very, I have a huge responsibility to continue to bring business into the companies to feed the families that I'm supporting. And I have to be doing that at all times. But you have to mess with your mind a lot too, because I have great a team. And you say, no, my role is best served out in the community, shaking hands, making contacts. And you have to disassociate just because the CEO or the owner is not in the building doesn't mean he's not in the building. And so you have to learn, different ways to make sure that you're creating momentum, right? And you're talking to guys on a Saturday, hey, this is what we could be doing in this joint or whatever. That's where you might not see it in the moment, the results, but that over time compounded is going to create such wins in your life.
Well, and I think it's a really strong heuristic too, to tell whether somebody likes what they do or not. Like I can tell in the first 5 minutes of meeting somebody whether they're doing their life's work or not, because I'll ask them, hey, what did you do this last weekend? And if it doesn't have something to do with something that sounds like work to me, then they're not doing it. And that's okay. Like that isn't for everybody. But what I don't think that everybody needs to be a workhorse and working crazy hours. But I do think that people are doing themselves a disservice if they're not actively pursuing or currently working on the thing that they find the most important. And I feel incredibly pulled and focused on giving that to vets. And that's kind of what the podcast and sort of my life's mission, I guess, in some way.
Because then it becomes something bigger than just an obligation. It's truly your calling.
And your work reflects that too. The quality of your work, the time you're willing to put in on it, all of those things.
It's so weird to me because I didn't set out being the CEO. Like I was interviewing, but like in the back of my mind, I knew that I always wanted to be the boss. Like I love employing people. I love coaching them, helping them. And so if I didn't do what I was called to do, then I think the SMB process for me would have been a little hollow. I think it would have been, oh yeah, you're an owner, look at the revenue, but you're not like tied to the day in and day out. And like, I'm not going to do this forever because I want to have kids too. But for now, like they couldn't pull me out. It's like at the gym, you couldn't get me out of the gym. I just love impacting people day in and day out, asking them how they're doing. Is there anything I can help you with? Like 7 a.m. is like my favorite thing, like checking in with the guys. And they're crazy. They're wild, man. Like they're always razzing on each other. Like it's so crazy. It's awesome. But I just love every minute of it, even the bad. Like this morning was not a great day. We got a guy going rogue on us and acting a little wild. But I love that he's pushing me to figure out a way to fix the problem, right? And so that's creating a different mindset where you're excited about every opportunity, no matter how it comes to you.
We're going to go off on you a little bit here, if you don't mind. How many iterations do you think that you went through to arrive at the point where you felt like
30? And I would say some of them happened 3 or 4 at the same time. And what I would say that just happened, and the reason I can speak to this more clearly, is it just happened 2 weeks ago again. And that one took 9 months. It was the easiest way I can describe it is it was like cement bricks on feet, like getting the job done, but not 100% happy, doing the podcast, but not 100% inspired, getting, screwed over by clients, kind of losing the passion a little bit, knowing I was in the right place, getting the right people in the right ship, removing the negativity of your life. And then all of a sudden I woke up and I was like, oh, there it is. And I can tell you exactly what happened. So I go out and walk every morning, and that stride was a little stronger. And like that foot stepped and I go, oh, he's back. He's back. And the savage is back. But here's what I've gotten comfortable with, and this has only come with age and understanding, is that there are seasons when the savage needs to take some sleep. And that is, I would say, my biggest thing that I've taught myself is to not beat myself up for not having that extra gear. But also understanding that a lot of what drove me in the beginning was toxic fuel. I'm going to do this because I'm going to prove you because, and that gets you so far. But I had to re-equip myself with longevity fuel and making my why bigger. And since I've done that, it's changed everything.
Mm-hmm. It's a super tough balance to find motivators that get you to the next level, because speaking for myself, I am a very optimistic long-term, but very pessimistic in short-term, which comes across very glass half empty on things. Mm-hmm. But that negativity, as some people might call it, my wife would definitely call it that, is like, it just is gas to me. Like it's I know that it's wrong, and I know that someday I'm going to need to like reconcile that and kind of make a positive shift towards some more meaningful motivators. And I think that as some age and family changes, that will come about.
I don't think you'll have to. You know why? Because the moment that baby comes out in August, the entire motivation shifts.
Yeah,
so it's true. I don't think then it becomes more, I tell everybody this story because it's a real story. It's not a baby, but it's the truth. One of the biggest times I ever cried, and the most internal conversation I've ever had with myself about, oh, this is not working, was when I was dating my ex-wife and I lost my job and I realized that my actions affected somebody else for the first time. And that's when I was like, oh, shit. And so like that same thing happens when you have a spouse or you have a baby, is like, oh, these actions, because here's what's going to happen when you change the motivation too. This is where it gets rough. You reach down for that fuel you've had forever and it ain't there. And now you have to reshape your identity. Dude, the amount of anger, and I'm using the word on purpose because that's what it took to get sober. The amount of, dude, I don't know if you've heard this podcast, but I used to run at 3 a.m. with my shirt off in 40-degree weather, yelling Imagine Dragons at the top of my fucking lungs, like screaming, banging my chest, like rebuilding my mind because it was so fucked. And like, I kept looking for that. And I realized that if I took that same fuel to be a CEO, nobody would ever work for me. And so I had to reshape where I went to my fuel. And when you do that, it's a little uncomfortable, but you put in new gas that can sustain you for longer. And I think the moment that you meet your lovely child, I think it'll start kind of the shift, right? But also understand that in those moments that you need it, use what you got while you're building the new one. So I think you'll be fine. I think it also comes with age, and just understanding, because it's hard. I would say that's the hardest thing, the identity part, and where you're getting your energy from.
It's so hard to do because it makes you feel like what you've been doing, you're kind of admitting that what you were doing was wrong. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of accepting it's not a good feeling, but it's like you feel that growth. Just so you're like, oh, this is painful. This is growing pains.
Well, one of my favorite things is so one of my mentors said, you have to make your ceiling your new floor, but more importantly, so you're going to be mad at yourself for doing the things that you only knew you could do when you knew what you do. Like, it's like, you meaning that you only knew the information. Like, do you know how many people come to me and they're like, I should be farther along? Says who? Says what? It doesn't matter. Dude, I didn't get my life together like 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, when I think about how much is accomplished in that short amount of time, I'm not saying I was not doing anything, but I wasn't doing it the right way. And so, at the end of the day, I think that what I love about you in the short time I've met you is that your need to help others is high. Your emotional intelligence, your awareness is number one. So if you have that, then you can change anything. And so more importantly, your why and why you're doing it is so rooted in the help of others that you'll be internally successful. It's very simple. If it was for you and it didn't matter and you were doing it for your ego, then I'd be worried. But it's the exact opposite. You have all the foundational pieces there, and it's just about creating the win across the board.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of you. I have a very long road ahead of me and still figuring a lot of stuff out, but I genuinely wake up very excited every day to figure it out and put these pieces, as you call them, together into something meaningful for sure.
100%. I think what's exciting to me is this is very hard to explain. I don't mean to get like, but I would say one of my strongest gifts is my vision, like meaning like I can see stuff out. And so like I think of myself as like, say there's like a long line of skills, like, and these are like, they're like rating points, right? In your head of like, he's a 6 and, you know, on communication, he's a 7 on leadership. Like I assess myself daily and go, okay, what do you need to work on now? So like when I knew we were going to get into SMB community and we were going to buy businesses, I spent 6 months learning everything I could about leadership and then thinking about how I wanted to be a leader. And so when you know you're going up to that like thing, like one of the hardest things about creating a group, because I've done it a couple of times, is to keep the energy flowing and then allow the group to kind of help each other. And the only way to do that is you have to be an egoless leader and you have to like set people up, but you have to be the kindling to the fire. And so it's a skill that can't be taught. It has to be learned and experienced on. And so that's why, you know, every day is an opportunity to get better. And I think if you hold that in your head and don't beat yourself up, then you're headed in the right direction. I think it's so easy to just, you know, just beat ourselves up because we're not where we want to be, or this is not it. But a group, right, where you're talking about is a living organism. And so you have to let it kind of 1% better every day and just, you know, create the positivity and let it move forward. And same thing you're doing with the podcast.
You were talking about how you like measure yourself against like what you need to work on. How do you think about tracking that over time? Is it really just kind of like a daily check the pulse on this, or do you have something in place that allows you to like kind of measure maybe arbitrarily your own, how you think you're fulfilling or executing on something and then gauge that over time? Or is it just kind of an internal read?
I would say the greatest thing that I did for myself is my whole 20s, I was a lone wolf. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to do it, you know, blah, blah, blah. What I've done, I don't know if it was planned. I'm definitely going to say it wasn't planned. But we had 5 other very accomplished owners, and they all have different skill sets and they all have different business skill sets. And so what I unknowingly did was I created kind of my own mini mastermind. And they don't let me breathe if I'm being hard on myself. Hey, dude, you're crushing it as a CEO. We're up, you know, this percentage, and you hired this many people, and we've grown this. You know, they are constantly my biggest fans, but they're also my biggest saying, hey, dude, like, blah, blah, blah. What I think is very smart about them, because they're so emotionally intelligent. I have one of my business partners, and we talk about golf a lot. Right. And we don't talk about business, but we talk about golf. And he knows that I'm inundated so much with business. I need that outlet. And so he's given to me that. And I told him the other day, I said, you know what you're doing? And he goes, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And so, you know, that's the problem. I think a lot of problems that's why your group's so important. I think that's a lot of problems in solo businesses, because you are the boss. And so that's why masterminds and groups have changed my life, because having somebody, dude, I flew down. This is a true story. My stress level was like 175. I was waking up in cold sweats. Do we have any money? We have money. Okay. Like, but I'm just like, oh my God, we hired too many. I'm like, I can't get out of the loop. I flew down to Tampa for the day. I flew in at 7 a.m. I flew out at 7 p.m. to go hang out with somebody I met off Twitter who runs a $25 million company. And we talked about, her taking over the company and life and blah, 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 blah. It was so refreshing to talk to another CEO and know that she had the same thoughts. Ever since then, good. But like, I didn't want to do that because I was like, no, you can't get away. But giving myself the permission to do it, man, it's been awesome since I got back. And so that's why these groups are important, and having an outlet, having a coach, having a mentor, vice versa, having, kind of my own mastermind that I've created. And then my relationship with my COO, I'll be honest with you. I feel like I've never met somebody. We just met each other like 3 months ago, but the same thoughts. Like I said to myself a month ago, I said, I really want to do a cookout for the families of the business. I've never said that to him. He messaged me last night. I think we should do a cookout for the families. I'm like, talk about same page, and so that's been amazing. But that's been through trial and error because I am not good at a lot of things. Like, meaning like I can remember everything. But if you want me to like break you down a spreadsheet, I'm like, no, sorry, bro. Like I know enough to be dangerous, and I can read it, but to make one, no, I'm good. That's not, that feels like the worst thing in the world. But you want me to go like climb underneath the house and run some wires? Like, sounds good. So just understanding where you are and kind of, a lot of people focus on their negatives, but there are things that you have that you're better at than others. Highlight those more, and then hire or partner with the opposite.
I think that that's really, really true. And I'm coming to the understanding of that especially as I form this, because it's, as you said, you want to just do it all. And you think that asking for help or needing other people is a poor reflection on you. And it isn't. It's foolish of you to think that you are going to be the one to take this from zero to whatever. Like, you need other people. And I think that joining a group, or at least having a mentor, or at least some peers that you can kind of meet with regularly, you will see, even if nobody says, hey, you're bad at this. If I go into a meeting with Austin and he's great at marketing and he starts talking about marketing, like, it's gonna, and maybe I think I'm a 10 out of 10 on marketing, but you're actually a 10 out of 10. I'm gonna see, oh, I've got work to do. Mm-hmm. So it kind of, as long as you can put the ego down, I think that there's a ton of value in it, because you're going to quickly see where you're not as good. And that brings room for opportunity.
Dude, I could literally go out and drum up millions of dollars of business in 2 seconds. All right. Like, that's just my shit. I can meet whoever, attract everything. I have a business partner that the idea of going out in the community and drumming up business, he would rather, there's so many things, he would rather go back to war, I'm sure. Like, there's so many things that he would rather do than that. And you know what he said? It changed his entire life. So what are you telling me? I don't have to do that now? I just get to work on the things I want to work on? Oh, this is great.
That's what we're after.
And that was the light bulb moment for him. He's like, I don't have to network anymore? Fuck yes. He's like, this is amazing. He's like, I'll show up later on when we've made millions and millions and I can just disappear. He's like, this is great. So that was kind of the light bulb moments, right? Of understanding like what you're doing and kind of putting people in their position and letting them run with it. Mm-hmm.
And I think depending on where people are at in their journey, if they're just starting off more so like myself, it's very difficult when you are not good at something, because you kind of have to be every role.
Yep.
And you got to stay lean at the beginning, and you don't have the cash flow to go and hire somebody, or maybe you don't have the serendipity that you just meet somebody great that instantly is aligning with your vision. But finding the half solution to hold you over till the point where you can, and be aggressive about looking for it. And maybe if you can, learn it yourself. Sometimes that's sounds like your friend, maybe not so big on the networking, but
the greatest real estate investors I ever met, started out as contractors. because they understand the different mechanisms of every job and the money and everything. And so they know that basic. So yeah, you got to start somewhere and you have to figure it out for yourself. There's a lot of things I did early on in my career that, I definitely shouldn't be doing, didn't want to do, but I did it because it was what needed to be done. So if people want to find out about your podcast, they want to connect with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, send them to one of two places. You can follow me on Twitter at Brock H. Briggs, and scuttlebuttpodcast.co is the website. There's a link to the YouTube channel, the newsletter, podcast, all that good stuff there.
Wonderful. We appreciate you taking the maiden voyage. I'm trying to get used to myself that far away and all these things, but the camera looks great. Thank you, Devin. Super excited to continue to connect with you and follow your journey, and really excited to watch you grow.
Thanks so much, Austin. It was great chatting with you. We'll be talking a lot more soon, I've got a feeling.
You got it. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.